Hello and welcome to the new video, and this is the Renault Austral, which we already know, but what we're testing this week is the new hybrid powertrain, which contains the 1.2 3-cylinder turbo in it. But as always, let's have a walk around the car. So what we have here is a typical Renault signature lights, but this time already with the LED matrix, just like it was in the Renault Espace. They are also here. They work significantly better than before. And they have a very nice sort of a signature in the night and the way they start up when you come to the car. Now, we also have some aerodynamics here on the sides, which is very usual. And this is the mid-size SUV, so you cannot expect an extremely good aerodynamic coefficient. It should be around 0.3, so yeah, not the greatest. Let's have a look at the wheels. They are particularly very good looking wheels, I have to say. But in terms of the tires, we have 235 45 R20. So 20-inch wheels with wide enough tires, I have to say. And we have quite a significant caster geometry here in the front. So that's good. Now, let's go to the rear, where, let me have a look at the suspension. I cannot see much there, but the geometry of the suspension is very slight negative camber there at the front, and even smaller here at the rear. Now if we go around the rear quarter of a car, I have to say the whole design of a car is much more better looking than some of its competitors, because it looks more compact. It doesn't look so quiet and boxy and bubbly like other cars like a Skoda Karoq or the Kia Sportage. So that's the thing I like. Now we have an E-Tech hybrid badge, and we also have an additional letter here so that you know you have a hybrid. Let's have a look into the boot, which with this hybrid should be 555 liters. I mean, it won't look like this now with sort of a bag here, but yeah, it seems all right in person. And you can also open the floor, and then you have another storage down there. Pretty good. You also have some storages here on the sides. You have a hook. You have some hooks. You have 12-volt socket in here. A good light. So yeah, really not bad. And of course, electrically controlled door, which is okay. Now, then the design of the rear lights is again very elegant, very exquisite. As you can see, these parts, it looks really sort of luxurious. I really do like that. Now, let's open the rear doors and let's have a look into the rear. Oh, okay. So, in the rear, I have to say, yeah, it's very decent. I have a decent amount of room for my knees, even for my feet, despite the seat being in its lowest position. I have a very decent space on my head, even though we have a huge panorama throughout the whole roof. And in terms of practicality, I have some huge door bins here in the door, which is good. I have some air vents here for the rear passengers, 2 USB-C connectors for charging your device, and a foldable armrest with cup holders, which is good. And of course, hooks on both sides for your coat. So all good in this regard. And can I move this? Okay, I cannot move the seats, but I read that actually if you have the ability to move the rear bench, then you have a slightly bigger boot that way. So let's sit in the car and let's drive it down there, and let's see how it drives. And well, hello and welcome in the Renault Austral. So this car has already been for sale for some time, but this is the new hybrid system that has come to the car, and I tested this system already a few weeks ago in the new Renault Espace, and I think this is a really good hybrid system. But first, let me talk you through the interior, which is as well pretty much the same as the Renault Espace, only slightly smaller. So the dashboard in front of me is totally the same. Even the wood here on top of it, which this dark wood, it actually looks pretty great and very elegant, is the same. This sort of chrome around the handles is the same. Also the ambient lighting, which is very strong in the night actually. And yeah, and also all sorts of these details are the same. The good thing about the interior that I like is the combination of the hardware controls for the climate. You have buttons to setting up the temperature, the fan and stuff, so that's good. And with the display, with this vertical, now typical Renault display with integrated Google services, I mean, it's just great. If we have a look here at the apps, you have here the Google Play Store, Google Assistant, Google Podcast, everything. You don't even need to really connect the phone to have it. So this is pretty cool in my opinion. I really do like this. And then you have a smaller display ahead of the driver with different views, where I only like the sort of a ref counter, which you cannot have in this hybrid because it works in a very special way, this multi-mode gearbox it has. So yeah, but the displays are extremely high quality. Also the cameras, you have Harman Kardon stereo like in the BMW. It's absolutely great in terms of audio quality. You have huge panoramic sunroof. So yeah, absolutely. You cannot open this one, or can you? No, that's only the cover for it. Yeah, but it's huge, also like in the Espace. And then up here you have a little mirror here to have a look in the back, and also you can store your glasses with your phone there. So that's pretty cool. I love this steering wheel with the multi-sense button, so you can change modes very quickly. Anyway, let me start the car. So when you start the car has already one mode of battery regeneration turned on, so you always have to turn it off if you want to set off. And then on the left side you can turn off the traction system. You can turn off the lane assist very quickly. That's the thing I really love about the Renault interior, that you have this sort of ability to do that. And you can open the boot from here, and now with the new cars you have a electronic parking brake here on the left from the steering wheel, rather than here in the middle, because here you have a wireless charging and whole loads of storage. Really, storage here, then under the armrest another one, really rather deep one. So really cool in terms of storage in these Renaults are. And then 2 USB-C ports and a 12-volt socket. So all good about the interior. And I also have the head-up display. But anyway, let me start. Let me just change the mode. So you always start in comfort, but I prefer to use the perso, which I personalize. I can show you. So I use these cars mostly in the sports setting, because that's when you get full power, and that what I think is the best also for the fuel consumption on the motorway and stuff. And I also have the 4Control, the rear wheel steering, which you don't get in other non-premium competitors. I have it topped up at 13th level of it. So yeah, actually I have to say, the last time when I tested the Renault Espace, I was talking that maybe for a faster driving it is not that ideal to have it set up on the top setting, this rear wheel steering. But now that I've sort of driven both cars more with this system, it actually is quite good, because the steering input you are putting into making the corners is much lower this way. And I even noticed the increased stability over the corners, or if there is a pothole in the corner during the cornering. So yeah, the rear wheel steering, that is a really big important feature of the car, and also of the driving. So now, of course, this is a mid-size SUV, the sort of a car that or type of the body that I like the least. I have to be really honest, and I noticed some disadvantages of this. So for example, the Espace, even despite being a much bigger, slightly heavier car, this car is still, I think, over 1700 kilos. Let me check. I think I'm right. 1702 kilos. The Espace was like 1770 or something like this. So even though the Espace was heavier and was bigger, but it was longer. That's what I want to tell you, and that is crucial in aerodynamics, because it could lead the air and flow it much more down towards the rear of the car because it's longer. This car has a, okay, the police, what's the speed here? Okay, this car has a short roof, and because it has a sort of a short chassis, a short wheelbase, you cannot work with this type of body very good in terms of aerodynamics. So that makes a lot of drag in the rear area of the car, just like with normal hatchbacks, and then the car is less aero efficient, and that gives you a worse fuel consumption as a result, even as I noticed here. So here on the motorway 7.5. now I'm gonna try to get it lower now on the B-rolls, but 7.5 on the motorway, driving 130 140 kilometers sometimes, so as the law says. So yeah, but these hybrids, these new hybrids particularly, they're very good. Let me talk you through it. So this new hybrid has a slightly bigger battery, 2 kilowatt hours. Previously it was like 1.2, I think, kilowatt hours. So that's good. We have an electric engine that has 68 horsepower and 250 newton meters, if I'm right, or 205, 250 or 205. I'm not exactly sure now. And then we have this 1.2 turbo that is working at most times as a creator of the energy. And this engine has 130 horsepower and again around 200 and something newton meters. And we have a multi-mode gearbox, which I have to say works better than in the previous generation of hybrid system. It's much more responsive, it feels, it's good. And the total output of the car is 200 horsepower, and I think it will be around 300 something newton meters. And I have to say, when you're driving it when you have the powertrain in a sports mode, it certainly feels very sufficient for the car. You can overtake very easily, even with a full car of people. It really doesn't have a problem. Of course, you cannot compare it with some premium cars with bigger engines and around almost 300 horsepower, but it is very decent for the price you're paying and what you're getting, and for the comfort on your travels. It's really good. So yeah, I'll try to maybe show you a little bit here, but there are cars incoming. I would like to overtake this truck. Now we're doing 80 kilometers. Yeah, I will do it. All right, now they're coming along. Look at this. Quite a good response, 110, 120, 130 there, like nothing. So 200 horsepower in action, that's what you get. Really decent. Really decent performance, yes. So, well, in terms of the suspension and driving, so we have a typical McPherson in the front and multi-link at the back, which is a very good setup, very usual in the car industry. Good for comfort, good for stability. So yeah, that's good. Now, in terms of comfort on every day, just like most of its competitors, again, thanks to the conceptual things about this body shape and type of the car, it is not the most comfortable car on the angulations and the bumps, and that is simply because we have a shorter wheelbase, we are sitting higher, and the car and the center of gravity is higher. So even despite the damping being set up reasonably comfortably, this conceptual setup of the car with the shorter wheelbase makes a shorter time in between when the wheels are going around the angulation or the bump, and that gives you a movement of the whole body of the car, and that makes you sometimes rather uncomfortable. So this is the characteristic of these mid-size SUVs that they have. So yeah, but still, I mean, the Renault, they are usually very comfortable cars. Also also connected with some drivers' fun behind the steering wheel, and they've really tried. I mean, it's softer at the front, so it doesn't crash into the angulations and the bumps. It sort of tries to go on the front very steadily through them, very flat. So that's good. That's actually a good work they've done. And in the corners, of course, I didn't hoon it through corners yet very much, and this is not the car you would do it with, but the stability in the corners is reasonable. There is a slight bit of roll when you start to turn into the corner, but the car feels stable, and then throughout the corner reasonably flat. Of course, there is understeer. The engine is mounted in front of the front wheels. That's again because of the overall length of the car and the concept of the car. Yeah, but it's a very reasonable car, even in the corners. And the biggest thing that gives you a better stability in the corners is particularly this fork control. So the steering of the rear axle as well. That is a massive difference in comparison to any of its competitors. That is a huge thing. Now maybe to come back to the fuel consumption, on the other way, when I traveled, I did like 6.6 fuel consumption, and it was a combined fuel consumption, so I'm hoping to do something like this now. And I think in the city with this hybrid it is no problem driving around 4 liters with this car, so really good. You have 55-liter fuel tank. That gives you a really good range. The estimated range when I resetted the trip and the consumption was 850 kilometers with fuel tank, and I think that will be possible, or something around 790 maybe. Yeah, that's pretty good. Maybe this all now leads me to the likes and dislikes of the car. So the likes would be the way the car looks. I have to admit, most of the mid-size SUVs, I really hate them because they are just so bland, and despite the cars like Kia Sportage, like the very sort of a minimalistic nowadays design, like some glass buildings, they just look very bland and very boring, and just like a soulless box. This Renault, though, it has a shape of a bubble, of a box, but it is very elegant. The lights are very elegant. They have a very interesting design touches to it, but it's all a very elegant car. And even I like that it feels, thanks to the design language, it feels slightly more compact than some of its rivals. For example, the Skoda Karoq, the Kia Sportage, and stuff. So I really do like the design of the car. It's a good thing about it. Then I like the interior. A huge step forward from the past Renaults. This is a really good interior, really well built, really well put together. In terms of technology, I would even say it's ahead of its rivals, ahead of the cars like Skoda, Kia even. So really great interior. It's really a pleasure to drive the car in it and travel. It's really a pleasure on your travels. And yeah, then another like would be, yeah, it would be the driving. It would be particularly the fork control. It makes a great difference in everyday driving and even in fast driving. So in everyday driving, you can turn with the radius of only 10.1 meter, which is even less than the Renault Clio. Imagine that, even less than the Renault Clio. So the car is extremely well maneuverable in the city. And then when you go onto the B roads and drive a little bit more dynamically, the car has a very good stability in the corners thanks to it. So that's a really great feature, and it's sort of a special about the Renault and about the car in this category. So that's pretty good, and I really do like that. And by the way, the steering is quite nice. It's not the most communicative. You don't have the most amount of feedback, but at least it's naturally weighted and reasonably precise. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's fine. And I also like this button that you can change the modes with very fast, you feel like in a sports car with this, but it's a very practical solution even in a normal car like this. Yeah. Then another thing would be the way the hybrid system works, which is really an improvement from the previous first generation hybrid of the Renaults with the 1.6. This one, it charges the battery faster thanks to having a stronger engine for the recharging of the battery, and also like sort of a software map, or the way it works is much better than before. It starts the engine somewhere around half of the battery capacity when you're driving, so really the behavior of it is much better. Even the consumption of the motorway particularly is much better than it was in the first generation. So I think it's a really great hybrid system. They really worked on it, and it's now become really good. And then it's connected with that you have a very reasonable power, 200 horsepower from it. I think there is also a lower specification variant of it, which has 160 horsepower, so you can get two of them. So yeah, very reasonable. The only thing I wish is that one of these systems would replace the hybrid in the Clio. It would be much more fun, much more powerful. So the sort of thing you want in the Clio, the power to get more fun of it, because it's a small car, it's cool. Yeah, then maybe I can say also as a like, in terms of practicality, it is actually quite reasonable. In the back you have quite a bit of space and good comfort for the passengers, and the boot, even though it's smaller than its rivals, particularly than the Skoda, this one I think it's around, oh, I'm not going to put it here, but it's definitely smaller than the Skoda, which for some people, like people in my country, might be a very big thing, but for me, I have to say I don't mind that too much. So yeah, and then well, let's go to the dislikes. And with the dislikes, well, I could critique, I have to say, the body of the car and the type of the car, but it's really what the people want nowadays, which is very sad for me. But you know, if it was a longer car or a smaller car, a normal hatchback, the fuel consumption would have been much better. This sort of a body is really inefficient for every day. You get more drag, more fuel burnt this way, and it adds weight. I mean, just these mid-size SUVs, they have no point. You have just slightly more space than in a normal hatchback, and you get to step inside the car into a bigger position of the seat, so it's more comfortable for all the people, but even the younger people take it as a big aspect in their buying decision. So yeah, this would be the biggest critic maybe of the car. I think the pricing is not so bad. Around 40k for this sort of car is what you pay even for some of its rivals. So yeah, and for some then a negative thing would be, as I said, the boot, that it's slightly smaller than some of its competitors. And then of course again the thing which is connected with the whole concept of this type of the car is the comfort. It feels a little bit juddery on this angulation, and it's moving you about because you have a shorter wheelbase and you're sitting high up, and the center of gravity is high, as I said. So it is at times maybe slightly uncomfortable, if I'm honest. So yeah, but as a car, as a package as a whole, as the work they've done on the car, I think it's a very reasonable car. I think they've done a good job with it, particularly the hybrid system. So yeah. Anyway, this would be about it to the Renault Austral. I would put it maybe in the top 3 if I had to choose from the category of mid-size SUVs. This would be the one of the cars I would choose. So that would be particularly, I have to say, the Mazda CX-5. They always do great work with the suspension. There would be this, and well, I would have to think about the third car really. But yeah, these two. This car is really we can say it's a sort of a driver's car in this category. It's or at least that it's a in terms of driving the corners, it's a very good car compared to some of its rivals like the Skoda, the Hyundai, the Kia. So yeah, very good car in this category. Very good hybrid system, despite for some people it is of course unusual to have a 1.2 in this car, but there's really nothing to be worried about. It has enough ground for everything. So anyway, this would be it to the Renault Austral. There are more videos coming on very soon. If you like the video, keep watching, keep subscribing, and I see you in the very next one. In the meantime, take care of you and goodbye.